Gupta takes the center seat, we are all set to invite our panelists. So we have with us Gaurav Sanghavi from Pentaspace Design Studio, Nebin Asharaf from Rubenius Interior Wellbeing. We have Shimona Bhansali from DesignHex, as well as Zarir Aibara from Neterwala Aibara, NNA Interior Architects, as well as Supriya Thyagarajan from Perkins Eastman. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for it yet another time. And this time we just thought that to the people sitting here, the young ones, if there could be, with the role models that I have with me, each one more accomplished and each one in a diverse practice, have made a mark for themselves in the field of architecture and design. And I thought, what better than to discuss with them how their journey has been and what has changed in terms of their practice over the years that they have practiced, and also to put in the perspective from the time that I started practice, and which was good 40 years back, and how things have changed. What are the new perspectives of and possibilities, like we were just told that, how much engaged you are in your practice today, and how do you look forward design being in the next 20, 30 years. So that is what we are going to be discussing. And, my idiom of starting with the ladies first here, we have Supriya. Supriya is she heads Perkins Eastman in the country. If you know, Perkins Eastman is one of the big, large architectural firm that specializes in institutional architecture. They have some fabulous projects like the ISP and lots of hospitals that she will talk about. And one of the things, Supriya, I thought that, and I want to ask you, when did you get into Perkins Eastman? The idea is that some of you who could be doing your architecture and post that, if you get an opportunity to start your practice or to get into a job, what kind of a job profile would you want to go, and how do you get into such companies and rise to the level that Supriya has risen? Over to you, Supriya.
Thank you, Vivek. So I started my journey in kind of a reverse way. Typically, you work with somebody and then you start your own practice. I started straight out of school with 5 friends, and I think that was a very wrong thing to do, because you didn't know anything. There weren't any guide rails, and I pretty much very soon got very dissatisfied with what I was doing, and then went for my master's and came back. But one of the things I really wanted always to do was to work on large projects, and projects that have large impact on people's lives, whether it's schools, it's universities, and then therefore Perkins Eastman was sort of the best fit for me. And that was also my dissatisfaction when starting my own practice. We were mainly doing interiors. How the practice has changed, I've been with Perkins Eastman for 11 years now. And in the last 11 years, I don't think it's changed very much. There is advent of technology, obviously. I think it still remains very collaborative, which I like. There is a lot of, there is no hierarchy in that sense. So we sit across. It's a large firm. It's about 1,000 people, right? So it's not like one proprietor-led firm where there is a design aesthetic already that the firm believes in. We believe in process, the design process, and as long as you follow the process, the design aesthetic will come out of it at the end. I think that process and that design culture is set, and now with aid of technology, we are using that to help our process, not to get to the final thing. So, that's...
So you need to align with the design philosophy, and I don't know how difficult or easy it is to align with the existing design philosophy. Are you going to be a fish in the pond, or are you going to make a mark? Of course, Supriya has made a mark. That's how she heads the company. Gaurav, over to you in the sense that, she spoke about aligning with the design philosophy. Somebody like you is a purist who's stuck to his guns. You want to work in architecture, not do interior. That's an easy way out. Consider to be an easy way out, Shimona. I don't mean to take away from anybody. Everything. I want to tell everybody that, all these guys sitting here, and the reason we want to talk about their journey is because they're put in hard yards. They've reached here because they're put in hard yards, and we discuss about the journey. Gaurav, over to you in the sense that you worked in Bombay specifically, working with builders. You have that domain advantage. Do you want to talk about your journey?
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. I think you need to be very clear that, I was very, very clear since I was in college that I want to build buildings, right? Because that's exactly why you get into architecture. But then there was a specific area which I was, residential was something which kind of attracted me a lot, because that is where kind of, people stay, they kind of spend their lives. That's the impact, the design can have on their lives. So I think I was very clear that I wanted to kind of scale up my practice.
One thing, Gaurav. Can you cut out the echo, please? There's too much of echo. We can't really. Just cut out the echo. There's a lot of echo. Thank you. Sorry.
No worries. So, yeah, I think you need to cut out the echo. That's exactly what it is. So if you're like kind of very clear in what you want, I think then you can kind of, draw that line. So as soon as I came out of my college, I knew that I wanted to do my own practice. So I went into management. I finished my management. And post that, I went to a big firm where I kind of focused on projects which I would want to do in the future. And once I kind of got experience, about 5 years or something, then I set up my own. And that time it was very, very clear that I want to stick to architecture. I don't want to get into interiors. Nothing, not taking away anything from interiors, but it was a conscious decision. So definitely there was a financial crunch which you kind of put onto yourself, because interiors is pretty, the cycle of interiors is pretty fast, whereas an architectural cycle is much longer. So you need to put in those yards to kind of make your first building, second building, kind of get that traction in the market space that, you can deliver a project, because the financial load on a building is much higher. Like, so it's in crores, right? So somebody kind of trusting you with that kind of money is a lot of pressure. Right? So you need to deliver. So I think you need to be very clear in terms of maybe not, in terms of exactly what you want, but what you are in for. Like, so I was not in for the money at that point. I was very, very clear that I want to kind of establish myself as an architect, and then I will kind of grow, and then I may, do interiors, I may do product, I can do other things, but I wanted to establish my firm as an architectural multidisciplinary firm. For that, I had to be very, very clear from the day one that how I'm going to kind of lay my steps. So that is, I think that's the journey which, kind of got me where I am at this point. And now I'm kind of diversifying into areas which are of interest. But first, I think you need to kind of be very sure of where you want to go and then plan that journey accordingly.
Now that we've spoken about interior design as not people not wanting to do interior design directly or straight away, I think we have someone, Shimona. She's, this is such a heartening thing to find what she's done. Somebody who's not really studied interior design, but drifted towards doing interiors because, that's such a creatively satisfying thing. And also, I think the most heartwarming thing when you get to see the end result of the hard work that you've put in within 5-6 months sometimes, or maybe even less, very gratifying. And also, I don't know, some of you, in case you are not trained interior designers or architects, it's a great news that there can be lateral shift from your domain, wherever you are working, and start doing interiors because of the passion that you have for good life, good style, good decor. Shimona, your journey?
So I always was driven to design, but Gaurav in our discussion before pointed out that if you want to pursue architectural studies, it's a very long process and you kind of commit to it. And it's not easy for anybody to sway. And children at that age are not so sure about what they want to end up doing, because sometimes we just love design. We love fashion, we love drawing, art, sketches, we love furniture, we love graphics, and I was one of those. And hence I chose none of that, and I inclined to management. Because I knew that eventually I would be spearheading something great in my life. I was very sure of that, because I'm a person who drives myself by my passion and organic flow. Like, I don't try to control my scenarios too much. And I knew that if I want a canvas, I would love to work on a small canvas, large canvas, this canvas, that canvas, canvas in home ground, canvas abroad. And I did not limit myself when it came to the kind of design practice I want to make in future. Unfortunately, I couldn't, after my graduation in management studies, I could not pursue the design education, but I started my own design firm. I was good at graphics, and I was good at crafts, and I was good at, so I started a packaging design firm. And I was experimenting a lot with paper sculpturing. It was not a very developed art form at that point of time. And from that, I got connected with some people who do weddings. And they had a lot of wedding packaging and elaborate gifting happening and packaging for wedding trays and decor things. And so, I was exploring as it came. And from there, my family was always a very progressive family in terms of growth, a lot of new businesses. We used to change our house interiors every 4 to 5 years. I would say I was privileged. But my dad was a very encouraging person. So we had to be sitting down and, with the architect or the interior designer and taking the important decisions on what is the color that goes here, what's the design choice you want to make. We used to plan our room layouts depending on how we want to use the space. So it was a very natural way of life. I never thought interior was something I had to pursue. I thought that was something that everybody did. People made their homes and they were a part of the decisions, and so I chose the other fields. But then I got married also into a real estate background. And I was always involved in interiors. I was the unassigned apprentice to the architects and interior designers that were working at my place. And another fortunate thing, because I let myself to destiny, and I opened myself and allowed those chances to come. My school, and in retrospect, I understood that no other school in India that I've come across offers this course, which was in 8th, 9th, and 10th grade. I got the opportunity to try this extra subject called technicals. And my school had a polytechnic, and we did hands-on carpentry, we did hands-on fitting, metalworks, welding, electrical circuits. All of these things we were doing hands-on. And at that point of time, we chose because it was exciting. I always enjoyed it. And we got a day off from school and we got to go to the polytechnic. But because of that, it all came very naturally, using materials. And we also had a subject called machine drawings, where we did our drawings and things like that, but it was all hand-drawn. So I feel like it was a very organic process for me. And because eventually I started my hands on interiors, so one thing led to another. The interior things grew so big, I had to sell my packaging design firm off. So I would just say that the takeaway was that you have to be driven by intuition, have the passion to want to do design in all its form, embrace the technical aspects of it, and it's never too late to get started on something that you truly feel happy about doing. So it cannot be all pre-decided. Let yourself be.
I think we just met someone who said that she started the practice after she had kids. And I think that's one of the beauties, that it's there is no barrier to entry.
I think on the hard days, your passion and your love for what you're doing keeps you going. Because there are hard days, but you have to love your job that much.
So I think passion has been the basic thing in everybody that's spoken about. And that brings me to Zarir. Passion again, you studied management, you studied abroad, worked for 5-6 years in management, and suddenly he found that his calling wasn't in numbers, and his mom's practice, we all know, Neterwala and Aibara, was something which is really a marquee practice in this country. And Zarir decided to join the practice. Initially, he thought that he will contribute to the P&L of the company, but then got attracted towards, like Shimona said, about the fluidity of the ability to plug in your creative pursuits, and he plugged in very well today. He heads both the creative, in fact, more of the creative. And so, Zarir, my question would be, how much of the management angle is now into the practice? I'm sure the design, of course, is always there, but how much is the firm able to benefit out of the management angle? Because that's a new perspective. Back in the day when I was practicing, there was no P&L. And this country has suffered, and I'm just need to take this time and tell the country has suffered because the architects, post-independent, were more like socialists, They thought architecture is a social duty, because the thing was about providing roti, kapda, makan, and that makan had to be provided by an architect, and he couldn't charge. And we suffer from that today. Architects find it difficult to actually demand the fee. No other profession is like that. And so how much did you think your contribution to the P&L has come about now, and how much, of course, design is part of you?
Thank you for that, Vivek. It's very important. It happens simultaneously. Now, there are aspects that many architects and designers don't know. What is your cost? What is your daily cost? What is your team cost? What are you charging against? How do you pivot? How do you start new verticals? How do you run the numbers? So there are many questions that are unanswered. There aren't consultants in this space. It's very disorganized. You can't go out there and get someone to advise you on this. You have to kind of figure it out on yourself. And it's supremely important to know where you stand, because at the end of the day, okay, I agree, the money doesn't matter, it's a passion.
It does, man.
But, and it's rewarding because you have a target, it's an easier way to achieve your dreams. I mean, if your dream is to enter new markets or start new verticals or get into different practices, you have to have some sort of mindset of how to get there. And sometimes, yes, of course, going in blind, you can get there, but sometimes it needs a more systematic or business-minded approach. There's a fine line between business and design. You cannot disrupt the creative process. You have to respect the creative side. You can come in like any consultant or a manager and try and demand your way, but you will get absolutely kicked in the backside. So there's a fine line of balancing the creative process, appreciating what the process is for each individual, not necessarily. There's no set rule or process in design. You have to appreciate and respect a certain designer's process, and then take that into consideration of how to monetize that, or how to manage that, or how to make that more efficient. So it's forever evolving. You have to keep figuring it out. You have to discuss. And it's extremely important. I would advise everyone to, just have conversations with your peers, figure out whatever you have missing in your practice in terms of design, if anything, or business. If anything is, you feel there's a hole or there's some missing place, speak about it. I'm sure your peers will be able to help you. But I think it's absolutely crucial. It's essential. I don't quite enjoy it anymore. I like the design side more. But it's something that I think everyone should focus on.
That's very interesting what you said, that there's a fine line between design but how do you monetize design? That's extremely important, because the manas that we put in, and if you're saying that the process, you can't interrupt the process of design, somebody can go on and on, but there are timelines to be met and everything. I'm sure that we'll come to that how do you then monetize that part of the thing. Here we have, we spoke about passion. We've all spoken about passion. Here's one guy who's talking about passion, because this is the new. And what we want to encourage today, like everybody said, that there are new dimensions to design today. There's design of all kinds. And Nebin here specializes in, I can't even say that, spatial, tech, futuristic design, whatever. New word for all of you to chew on. Nebin, tell us about you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, sir. So, as you mentioned, it sounds a little fancy. That exact impression is what we are trying to, market it and kind of require it back from the client as well. So it just did not happen in one day. It back-rooted to a lot of individuals who were working behind it, and it started from a collective result. Like, for example, my dad used to have a collection of inside-outside magazines which are older than me. So somewhere it started probably from that side. And then, through the journey of studies and hobbies, you evolve into your initial college days, and then you decide what course you need to take. And in my case, I was not fortunate enough to go pursue architecture. Probably that was the best thing happened, because then it would have been an investment of 5 years. But instead of that, I got an exposure to practice multiple things within that 5 years. So, I started my graduation in interiors, but once I finished it, there was a big question, should I pursue in photography, graphic design, product design, interaction design? From there it starts. So there was a lot of, type of interest there, and eventually I was not ready to give up on any one of them. And it started with that. Tech was one interest in it. And, breaking old computers or calculators and figuring it out what inside it. I still remember the first time when I opened up a laptop and I realized that there are a lot of vacuum spaces in it. So, but it was still in a working condition. So that was my intention of skinning something which is very complex. Today, what you mentioned about spatial futurism, the moment when you say about it, it sounds like we are implementing a lot of tech tools, implementing a lot of technology to automate and stuff like that. Not completely, that is still a little more super fancy for a design agency to pursue. But what we do is like, we kind of design places which are complementing to such kind of industries out there. So then we started knowing more about it. So me being a science enthusiast student, at the early stages, it was very easy for me to work with a lot of energy companies and tech companies and deliver something which what's complementing to their industry. So fortunately, when we collectively call all together, it has become like we coined a name and we started calling a practice as it is. Because globally, that's what happens. Everybody who practices in something will be coming with their own curriculum style. That's what we're trying to build now, which how to pass on to people. So right now where I'm standing is like, we were not ready to give up on any of the tiny passions we had. And all the hobbies are collectively coming together, and how we are trying to commercialize it is what's happening right now.
Great. So back in the day when I started practice, completely hand-on drawings, no social media, only word of mouth. We couldn't even advertise anything. From there to today, where he's talking about tech-enabled design, which is also plugging in things that didn't exist in the domain of design. Very interesting. I don't think any of you has started their practice in an era which was hand-on drawing. Gaurav, not you, even you.
We did, I think, yeah.
But computers were there.
Were there, just very, very preliminary.
Yeah,
AutoCAD 14, so that was like...
Come on, it was AutoCAD. We used to have computer to play Pac-Man, back in the day.
Yeah,
and I remember the first PC XT that I bought, I used to break the keyboards because I used to be, that's the only thing that we did. But yes, it's come a long way. Today, how much of tech plays a role in, integration? BIM has come into picture. The way we practice architecture is completely changed, I think, and especially companies like you, when you work with builders. The perspective then and now, how much are you actually looking at your skill or you're looking at your computer? Because back in the day when I used to, there was a process of putting a sheet on the drawing board, set square, this, that, the other. The first line that you drew, whether it was going to be a vertical with a set square or a parallel bar, gave you a thought process. Today you can open your computer and do something. So how much do you think it's a boon or a bane?
See, I think I'm still the old school. I think I need my pencil and my paper. And I think that's what I kind of tell my studio too, that in the concept stage, I think that the connection of your brain to your hand to that pen is very, very important. Because what happens is on a computer, you are kind of zooming in, zooming out, The continuity of thought kind of breaks. So in the initial process of design, I kind of, I recommend that to all of the interns who come into our studio, to every designer who's in our studio, that the first thing which you will show me is on paper. Because that is something which is very important. Because that's the clarity of thought, right? And then you kind of take aid of, the softwares and all of that to kind of develop on that. So there is AI, there is BIM, and there will be many more softwares which kind of, will kind of grow. But the initial thought of a concept needs to come through the system, not through the computer system. So I think we kind of prioritize that, and I think it's working. So yes, but the next generation is kind of very hands-on with the computer. They kind of try to design on the computer, but we kind of try to tell them to de-learn that, because you're just skipping a step, So the pause is required for the concept, and then you kind of accelerate it through the software.
Supriya, Gaurav is speaking from his personal thing. As a firm, what do you think is the way forward?
We are still, we're kind of debating this entire question of AI and what technology can do for us. There is definitely a very strong design philosophy that says there is merit in slow thinking. And so at that, that slow thinking cannot be replaced by fast technology. So that slow thinking has to come in. And then we can use technology to, do other things. The advantages have been that we have 24 different offices in 7 or 8 time zones. Being a single firm, I can call up somebody in Ecuador and say, can you help me? Because there is something about this project that I need help. And we are able to work on the same model. We are able to work on the same platform. That amount of collaboration that's happened because of technology is fantastic. Of course, COVID pushed it too, because then we learned how to talk to each other. The other part is, because of COVID, people started working hybrid. In India, we encourage people to come back into work, because the work that happens sitting across the table in a collaborative way cannot be replaced by computers. And we are struggling with that in other parts of the world, where we're not able to bring people back into the office. And you know, it's such a, our profession is about also pure learning, right? And that you can't take away. I mean, that nothing can replace.
I completely agree. I think serendipity happens when you meet people, you know, it's over coffee, over discussions and things like that. But, you know, Shimona, how much, you know, people, this is an oft-repeated thing. We all architects tend to abuse and talk about Pinterest and this, that, the other. I think it's one of the finest things that has happened to the business of architecture, you know. Trust me, because you know what is Pinterest? It's actually, it's your and mine designs only, which have been taken as a picture, and it's an amalgamation of that. And we talk about, I think it's a fantastic way where an architect or an interior designer is kept on his toes by the clients, because they can see pictures, they are more educated today, and they can give you a picture. It's completely your choice, you know, because an architecture and design is a social art. It's not a personal art. You're actually working for a client, and he has every right to be demanding out of you. You are not fibbing around, you know, because he'll show you a picture. I have been calling it the new porn, you know, everybody watches it, nobody owns it, you know. So your take on social media and the visual referencing that is coming about with so much overload of knowledge now, Shimona?
I think as we progress, these new things that are coming up, they are definitely coming because there was a need, and these are advantages. It's a way to put out our work, and I only see it as positive. I think the negative comes when designers, you know, stop using their intuitive powers, picking up a pencil, putting it to paper, and just like she said, slow thinking, you know, because what your pencil can do on paper, the proportions, the curves, and that original idea that comes, that kind of, you know, when they're straight going to Pinterest and taking a reference and starting the design from there, that's killing it, the originality. I have examples. I sketched something on a paper and I said, this is
there anything original under the sun? I thought everything is
I'm not talking about, so that's a different subject. There's nothing really original, because subconsciously we may be inspired by a lot of things. Our brain is also a computer of sorts, and we remember the images that we are exposed to. But I am talking about when you start, do you have a concept? Do you have like a gut feeling on this is what I want to present, or this is my big idea on the project? I think if we are talking about then and now, it's really more about telling a story and starting with the concept. You know, initially it was a need that you were, like in your times when you were referring, it was a need you were fulfilling for the market. Now, there is so much competition. There are so many people. It's about the idea that you're able to tell. So are you going to be able to pick up a pencil and start, or are you going to reference from Pinterest and that's your start point? And I'm saying it's really essential that you're able to use those images to aid what you're trying to say. And it's really nice that clients can also, you know, talking about an aesthetic is not easy. It's easier to show an image and discuss it. If the client is saying, I want something like this is definitely a better way to go ahead. But if my designer picks that image and starts designing the same thing, that's the only drawback. So it's about the fine line between, you know, how much reference you take and how much you put it from yourself. I think there are boons and banes to both things. But if you know how to balance it well, I think, you know how Gaurav said, encourage the paper, encourage the pencil, and then, of course, reference. So social media, Pinterest, I would say yes, but only when you know how to work with them.
I'm going to hold Zarir to what he said, that you can't disrupt the creative process and hence the timelines.
Exactly.
So on that note, you know, like what she's talking about, that slow thinking everybody is talking about, does it really work, slow thinking? Because it's a very fast-paced world, you know. The rentals or the real estate values are so high that, you know, you really can't, and you are also managing finances and everything. Whereas, how do you, like, strike a balance between them. It has to be there today if you want to run a successful practice. And that's what, I want to tell all of you, that to run a successful practice, you need to be, I think, nimble today. You need to be very lean and nimble and be able to move around. And like Shimona said, that get into newer avenues, what Zarir has also done. Your thought on that, Zarir?
So there are two sides of it. When it comes to the slowing down, taking your time, completely agree with her. It's the need of the hour, and it's something we have to do to create.
I want to know why, but yeah.
Because that's what brings creative, unique concepts to the table. Otherwise, it's run-of-the-mill, it's standard. You're not giving any added value to your client. So the client today respects that time. They understand that. So there are two sides. So the conceptual side and the creative side, your time will be given to you. Take your time. We will not disrupt that. But where we feel the need to not take our time is on the operations side, where things are more in terms of process, they need to be followed. There you need to show your efficiency. But you don't need to be efficient with design. You have to just be yourself or creative or follow your own path and be a little bit more open-minded there. So therein lies the trade-off. All of our clients are happy with that. They're totally fine with that. Within the 2 to 4 months that we take to put together an entire design set, they don't care how much time we're spending on concept or consolidation. So that's the designer's prerogative. But following that, in terms of execution, yes, there needs to be timelines, there needs to be structure, there needs to be organization. That all needs to follow. So coming to your point also on social media and the integration of technology, we in fact have our firewall that's banned Pinterest in our studio. We can use it as inspiration, but we create a culture that allows designers to design, and that is supremely encouraged. And so that is the boon. But the bane is that we use a lot of, not necessarily AI, but ChatGPT and stuff like that right now to get the grunt work out of the way. Emails, minutes of the meetings, schedules, constructing charts. So things that don't require a designer to actually use their creative mindset for, by all means, find more efficient ways. Do things that are not necessarily your skill set with tools that can help you, but things that are your skill set, do in your own way, and enjoy yourself. That's the most important.
So optimizing, you said optimizing the downtime on the construction. So do you think design and build is the way forward? Because, especially in interiors, when it gives you in the operating time, you can cut down on the cost because of better management, or do you think that should be the way? You are the master craftsman?
So it's difficult to say because you can't put a designer in that role. If you take a designer and put a designer in a design and build role where they're responsible for billing, procurement, BOQs, you'll just fluster the designer. So if there's a separate team that runs a certain skill set professionally managing this entire vertical, then yes, it can work. In terms of time, in terms of efficiency. Unfortunately, the transparency in India is not yet there. So for a client to respect a design and build role, I think that needs a little bit of time to evolve because there's a lot of dishonesty, I would say, in the market when it comes to that. So I think it is the way forward. Many of the Western designers do so. But I think it needs a little bit more professionalism, organization, and just needs to get a little bit more evolved to get there.
Good point, I think. But then are we not supposed to be professionals? We are supposed to be professionals. Shimona, why would you not do, you do large interiors. Why wouldn't you do turnkey interior? Is it a bad word?
So I just wanted to actually first take from the first point is that a lot of people fail to see that we are also businesses. We are not just designing all the time on our benches. Like we are also doing accounts, we are also paying the bills, and there is a lot that goes in the background that, when people talk about designers, they just don't see happen. They feel like, this designer has to sit on our tables, just send the drawings and, that's it. No, that's all we're asking. But there's a large setup that we are running and, to present a practice and to present it the way we do, it's a big show. So the management aspect of it, 100% relies largely on technology and systems. And the design process can be slow, can be intuitive, because it has to be us. So if we need that time, we can take it, respecting, of course, certain timelines. And then coming to your next question, turnkey. So we started that. When we started off, we started doing that. But like we said, we want to take the process slower and we want to be more intuitive. You know, some of the ideas come a little late in the day. It happens to all of us. And they are it's a big idea and I want to do it and I want to express it. And I am a person who would not, who's fearless when it comes to, not on the 11th hour, but on the 9th hour, if I have an idea, I want to be able to implement that. And it's more hindering to me than the project because I know I can parallelly tackle it. But that big idea, when it also comes with the cost justification to client, it is not looked at as a big idea, aesthetically or for the benefit of the client. Client has a doubt that, oh, she's going to build more with this and therefore, so that money gets attached to our design process. And in the beginning he mentioned it's not about the money. I want to say, of course it's about the money because, we're not just designing, but that's the fine line. Like, I don't want it to be about the money when I want to push a good design across. I don't want that question to be raised. She's suggesting this because maybe she wants a higher billing. So, as a matter of choice, because I don't want to make that extra money at the expense of my design, I decided to not do turnkey, but otherwise there are people who are fabulously doing that well.
Actually, one of the professions, or one of the companies you track very closely, at least I do, is Disney Pixar. Okay, they have managed their creativity process with such precision, right? And there's a great book called Creativity Inc. And if you read that, it's about managing a design process. And how they do it beautifully. And there is nothing less creative coming out of Disney. It is a business, it's a thriving business, but look at how they've done. And we can all do it, right? And we should all be doing that.
I think, I've also been advocating that, in the sense that, we are the biggest stakeholder and no stakeholder in that sense, accepting design. Design has honestly no value, I wonder, that's a separate debate with AI being there now. I don't know how much value we'll have in times to come, whether everything will be designed by artificial intelligence or no. You never know about that. In that case, what is the stakeholder, what is the stake that an architect holds? We are liable if the building fails. If there is a fire in a building, I remember here in a nightclub and the architect is held responsible. Why are we if a money is attached to design process, so be it, I think. Isn't our man hours are also, nobody is talking about the slow thinking and then you are taking more time, whereas Supriya is giving it to me overnight, things like that. So, Gaurav, I know the kind of very large project that you are doing, multi-story buildings have no role that an architect, unless you're running a large construction firm also you can do. But how do you see the EPC model now coming into picture where you are part of one of the cog of the wheel? Do you think that that's the way forward in the future, in the design practice, from then to now, or then to now, yeah?
I think it's getting more and more collaborative. It's very, very clear to that because the designs are getting more and more complex. The scale is getting more and more complex. So and specializations are very important because you can't be, jack of all. It's very difficult to do that kind of practice now because there's a lot at stake. There's a lot of real estate at stake. There's big numbers at stake. So I think it's very, very important that you know what you're good at and, kind of do that SWOT and make sure that you fill in the other gaps very, very clearly. So it's not about being overconfident, underconfident. It should be just that, okay, this is what I'm good at and I need help in the other aspects, right? So it be management, be it services, be it all of that. So yes, romancing that, yeah, you're a master architect and you kind of control everything. All that it's all great, but eventually you need that reinforcement because you can't take educated decisions otherwise. Because you're not educated enough in that particular sphere, which I think once you collaborate, you kind of learn the process and then, you may be able to add value the next time around. So I think you have to be very open as an architect and not kind of, take it on your ego or, because architects somehow have a very, high EGO. So I think we need to kind of break that down and make sure that you're part of a collaborative kind of energy, and that is the way forward for sure. So That is my take.
Supriya?
I completely agree with Gaurav because the projects we work on, like I saw my first project completed after 10 years, right? It was massive, it's a university, and you can be the principal architect, but you can't be a master craftsman there and say, I will control everything, right? You need specialized, you need educators, you need people who can, look at your facade, you need project managers, you need all of this help of every professional who's good at their work to help you be successful as an architect. So I think the more specialized it's becoming, the more complex the projects are becoming. We are trying to stick to our lane and do what we do best, yet still be sort of the principal architect to see, okay, is this as per our design intent? Is this as per our vision that we've set for the client? Because eventually that's what we came in first to set that, and whether we're doing that. But there is no way we can control everything. We'll need to bring in help where we need.
That's why I can say then, I think that I'm the master craftsman. I have to start educating my collaborators also. I start telling my landscape architect how to do landscape, So
See,
that's
we're
the
deciding
difference.
that, we pick the work we do based on the passion that we have for it. So if you're passionate about the build
Completely.
process, you must.
I think I have to own that entire project, including manipulating the client also, how he should be building,
That's a big part of our job.
Can you like kind of manipulate his bank account or something?
His back.
He has.
Shimona is speaking
I was
about,
going to say other
speaking about storytelling, and that storytelling is, I think, one is very good at, So I think when the brief from the client is coming, I'm telling that story and selling that hard sell, man, like how. And that is what floats my boat, at least, so far. But yeah, coming back to what we were talking about, and I think the positive getaway for everybody has to be that here are 5 guys, and including me, 6 of us. We're talking about 6 different kind of practices, and that the business of architecture, there is lots to take pride in, there's lots to invest in, and it'll come, the success will come to you. These are the mascots of different design practices. Supriya works with a multinational company, and she's made a big success. So one of the route post your college is perhaps that if there is a campus interview, a placement comes, go. If you think that you don't have the bandwidth to start your own practice, then go join a big firm where you learn along the way, and then maybe if you're good, then you can reach that level. Gaurav, on the other hand, as you see, he's decided to, it's an apprenticeship-based profession, so he, I think, worked with somebody, and then when he had the bandwidth, he started his practice, stuck to his guns. And then, because we all think that, you can be a Gaurav when you graduate. No, there are no shortcuts to architecture. There are no cherry pickings here. We need to put in hard yards. So that's one example. We have Nebin, who is following. He's not an architect. He didn't want to waste 5 years. Now, this is the new thing. He didn't want to. He's saying waste 5 years. Now, I feel like, I don't know where should I go. I wasted not just 5 years. I wasted much more than that. But here he is making a success of it, because that's why he's sitting here alongside all of us. Another example, Shimona, of course. What should I say? Yeah, wonderful. And
I've
Zarir.
said enough.
So there are different practices. There is a different traction that each of the practices get. Don't get disillusioned if you don't reach somewhere very, very quickly. So one last word, one last advice starting from Zarir to all these young people who are sitting here. I see some in the front row, not so young people, but they can still have a takeaway.
I would say my journey here has been through curiosity. I think curiosity is what leads to knowledge, and then that leads and finds your path. So just be curious. It's easy. You just keep needing to question processes, purposes, why. So just be curious. That will automatically tell what you're really interested in, and that will find your path. So curiosity for me.
Questioning purpose is leading a whole lot of people to go to MBAs, So don't say that. Shimona?
I will say that there are no shortcuts, and we can only tell our stories. Everybody's story is different here, but my story is of the work we put in and how much passion we put in with, and it is a journey. You have to build on it consistently. Things get tough. You have to work till late. Sometimes we are sitting late. Should not be frowned upon. We're doing it because we're passionate about it, because we are looking forward to a certain kind of result. And the good days are also there. So I think it's really a journey, and there is no shortcut without the work that we really put in. So that, driven by passion, is going to be the success mantra. So for the work-life balance myth that has come into place because of this social media, I mean, that's the biggest bane. That's the biggest disadvantage of social media, where people see other people's beautiful lives on Instagram and think that, oh, I'm not doing that, so my life is bad. And that is causing more depression than their actual lives. You know, their lives are beautiful. They are doing good. They are in a good firm, doing good job, great projects, being creative, being appreciated. They have their days off. They can enjoy it, but they're feeling it's sad. So social media should be kept in its limits. That's not going to define our lives. It's really the hard work. And when you do that, and then you like juice it up and enjoy that juice on a holiday, that's what real work-life balance is.
So don't look at other people's social media, because Instagram is a pretty picture. It's not an experience. Architecture and design is an experience. We are sitting in this room, you take a picture, I look very good, but if I'm feeling very hot here, or the echo is there in the sound, I don't think the experience is very nice. So be very mindful, all of you, that don't follow Instagram. Don't try to create Instagrammable pictures, because at a certain point in time during the day, a pergola will cast a shadow which will look very pretty in the picture, but later in the day, the shadow is gone and it has no meaning. So your last word, Nebin?
So I think tools and process are based on situation. The first line when you started this discussion, you said at the time before, when designers and creators used to be patronized, we used to feel very socialistic. I think it's all about finding the balance between whether you want to go in the path of being a balance between socialistic and capitalistic, because that kind of answers that particular project you are involved in. It to be business driven or passion driven. So you should be wise enough to understand, while you get into a new project or a task, what the end goal is about. Then it's very easy to decide whether you should take the largest challenges or invest the time in tools. So my message is very simple: be wise about the opportunity and do a basic assessment about what's the final goal.
So some people are wise and some are otherwise. I fall in the category of the otherwise, because I think that I can always manage both business and the passion together, and I've been able to do that, thankfully. Supriya?
So I consider myself not as a designer, but I practice design. So, and therefore, for
Amazing.
a lot of
That's
people,
very well said.
you don't really have to be just a designer, right? You can very well be a design manager. You can be a project manager. You can be, you can be the DE&I coordinator, whatever. If you're passionate about the built environment and the practice of design, I think there are so many roles anybody can play. So don't just think that there is only one role to play of a proprietor or a master designer or a master architect. You can do many things within this profession. And I'm doing that. I'm managing a practice. I am not designing in that practice. I'm managing clients. I am managing the office. I love meeting people. I do business development. So this is something that I like doing, and I'm able to do it within the practice of design.
Fantastic. This is a takeaway for me from being a designer to practicing design. Fantastic, Supriya. Gaurav?
Just two words. I think it's patience and self-belief. I think as a designer, those two are your key words to kind of succeed. Patience and self-belief.
Great. I think we had a meaningful chat here. We have a couple of minutes more. If anybody has any questions with this esteemed panel, please feel free. Get your pearls of wisdom from them, and let's otherwise call it a day. Anybody?
Any questions? The floor is open now for questions, ladies and gentlemen. Or else I have a question, actually, and this is on my mind, listening to all of you. Now, the future workforce that we see, of course, is getting younger and younger. I would want to know from you all, like, while design has also changed over time and all, but What is your quick suggestion for the future workforce that's coming in? Their ways of working are quite different from yours as well. So apart from apart from what you've shared right now, what is the one advice you would want to give them?
I just want to tell everybody that I think there's a great future, there's great future for business of architecture. And if you invest in your time and energy in the practice of design, whatever be the domain, whether you're doing interior, product, graphics, architecture, buildings, and there are many, many other avenues now, please invest in that, because the world is only going to be building more, and there is so much for all of us to do. So just be at it and do that.
Thanks. So I was just mentioning it. My everyday, I'm very excited about, even tomorrow, is only because I haven't given up on any of my childhood hobbies or passion. So a lot of people, when comes with for job and other things and all, a lot of people say, I was this, now I am into this. And a lot of people are into the transformation stage. And when sometimes when when they come in the interviews, I used to ask them, like, what do you do apart from what you are supposed to be here for? And then you actually get to see the real profile of that person. So these days, people, like even I think in students, kids and all that, I think parents kind of support them a lot in nurturing themselves in all aspects of it. That should continue. We're being not multidisciplinary, more of cross-disciplinary. You never know which the generation of limitlessness, we are heading into that. We never know. People talks not just about tech. You must be knowing more about medicines and things related to that, more than any of your counterparts probably. So we never know where the informations are coming from. A lot of people say, this is not my thing, so let me not listen to it. That era is gone. Yeah. You have to listen to it. I work with a lot of clients where I don't even know what that industry is about, but I'm able to catch it only because I'm curious. So you have to nurture your curiosity.
Lovely, love that. And I think the generation of limitlessness, so I think that's really neat. Thank you.